simulation theory, psychedelics, and human consciousness. I was watching this episode of the Shawn Ryan Show where this guy named Chase Hughes was being interviewed, and he was saying some things that was honestly breaking my brain, some things that made me think about things that I've thought about pretty deeply, I'd say, in a whole new light. So without further ado, I just kind of wanted to pull a clip from that episode just so we could kind of go deeper on it together.
People are not talking.
I think there will be a portion of society that chooses to put on that advanced VR experience, like
Neuralink.
Well, I think way in the future, that like where you can't distinguish that from reality. But it's also like, if you look at everything, how everything is a microcosm of the big thing. Our DNA looks like the galaxy and our eyes look like a star and all this kind of stuff. When we were on a break last, we talked about salvia and how a dude did salvia and lived like a 30-year life and like had kids and stuff and came back. I've read that probably 2 years ago. I've read about this guy. That haunts me to this day, because like, what if that's just the next level and we're in that now?
I know.
Like the head.
What if that's just the next level? And you may have thought about that once or twice. You may have heard about it. I feel like picking up more steam and gaining a lot more popularity. The simulation theory. Are we in base reality? Are we in, reality one, so to speak? The more and more that this technology continues to progress, and by this technology, I'm talking about what he was first saying, that people were going to start getting lost in. These VR sets that can create worlds and lives that are indistinguishable from the one we're in right now. The closer and closer that we get to being able to achieve that, the more likely it is that we're in a simulation. Mathematics and statistics, whatever you look at it, the fact or the idea that we are in base reality, it's kind of one of those that stems from ego. Well, of course we are. Of course we are the ones that are starting all of these things. We're the ones that are in the real reality. There's no way we're in the Matrix. But that's how it would feel. And he's talking about somebody taking a salvia trip, which I've never done that personally. But taking this trip and feeling like they've lived a life that was 30 years long, and they wake up and it's like, wait, what? I couldn't imagine. Let's just look at that as if it is 100% fact. There's no way that we'll be able to prove or disprove what this person said. So let's just look at it like it is actually true. Imagine waking up and realizing that everything that you've done is all part of a simulation. It's all part of something that you created in your mind, or whatever the case is. That's something that may be scary to some people, but if you really break it down, it doesn't change anything about how our experience is. We still feel pain. We still feel loss. We still feel joy, and we feel the desire to want more, and all of these things that life has to offer. So what does it matter? Is it one of those things where people mentally masturbate over the idea and it just, makes them feel good? Sitting here thinking about what life could be. I don't know. The more that we see different pieces of evidence, and Chase Hughes is about to go into it a lot deeper within the next couple minutes, the more evidence that starts to stack up, the more that it's kind of hard. It's hard to think of reality as anything other than a simulation. But it'll make a lot more sense once we go deeper on this.
It hasn't come off yet.
I think about that too.
I do all the time.
What if this is a simulation? What if none of this is actually real?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know where to go from there, but I do think about that a lot.
More than I should.
Yeah.
I do too.
What do you think? Do you think we're in a false reality?
I think this is a simulation.
You do?
Yeah.
You think this is a simulation?
But I don't think it's computer. This is what I mean. When our ancestors were around, the universe was...
This part right here. Been heard about the simulation theory. Okay, cool. Like I've gone pretty deep, deeper than the average person, I'd say, would. Like when I talk about this with people in my life, it is usually one of those things where I'm driving the conversation more, where it's just like, well, did you know this? Or, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where I feel like I've given it some real time. But this part right here is like, I didn't even think about it. And that's why I like to hear other people's perspectives.
Was made of fire and different elements of fire, because that's
You
what they
think
knew.
I'm here right now?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
You don't think this is only in a projection of your reality?
No.
Have you ever thought that?
No. But if you look at the Industrial Revolution, the universe was a machine.
Right.
If you look at the electrical revolution, when we started inventing electricity, the universe was all energy. And you look at now, when we're in the age of computers, and the universe is a computer. So we're just using very, very limited, just our small, narrow perspective to make sense of something that's incomprehensible. When people say like, oh, we could not be in a simulation because the computer would be the size of the solar system or whatever.
Yes.
Like, how naive for us to say that they use computers.
Bro, how naive. How naive have I been? Because that's one of the things where it's just like, okay, I guess that really doesn't make sense. That's one of the things like kind of holding AI back right now is we need to find some way to get more compute, to have more energy and blase, right? I digress. How naive. How naive have we been to just think that it's going to be a computer? Everything that is seen throughout history is only described with the context that it's given. That's why it's crazy when you hear things from the Bible that says there was a wheel within a wheel, and it's like that was in the sky, and chariots of fire and things like that. That's why these things are weird, because you're describing something using the context that you have. What were you describing? And bringing it back to this, we would assume that everything would be run off of some sort of computer. And because of that, that's one of the biggest arguments against the simulation theory, is that, it would be basically impossible. The long story short, I'm not a scientist and I can't tell you all the fancy technical reasons why, but the TLDR of what their reasoning is the compute that it would take to make that happen, to actually simulate the entire universe, would be impossible to have. It would just be impossible. And I can't say it better. How naive are we to think that it would be using a computer? What else could it be using? Who knows? Imagine somebody from 1925 trying to imagine the use of computers and all of the different things that it could do. Try to get somebody from that time to even explain how or what a simulation is or could be, or how the fact that we may be in a simulation. That would be something where it's just like, what, have you lost your mind? I don't even know. They talk a little bit weird back then, right? Regardless, what I'm trying to say is they would look at you like you were crazy. They wouldn't actually be able to come up with a real description of what computers could do, because they have nothing to compare it to. Before the telephone, you know what I mean? Like, well, you'll be able to talk to somebody on the other side of the country, or eventually on the other side of the world, and all of that. What do you mean? Well, how would you do this? Would you have some sort of tunnel? Like if you asked them to actually go through how it would be done before it was done, how would you talk to somebody on the other side of town and without leaving your house? Well, I would create some sort of tunnel from my house to their house. And anytime I talked through it, the sound would travel through. They may come up with something that make sense with the context that they've already given throughout their life. How naive are we to assume? I mean, that blew my mind, and I wanted to pause here because I didn't want that to pass over. I didn't want it to be one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, it could be something else. That is one of the biggest arguments against the simulation theory. And it's just such a nonchalant response. Like, why do you assume it's going to be computers? What? Well, shit. I don't know. Because we would use computers? Yeah, in the simulation. And how do you know that's not going to actually continue to advance? We are still advancing, and whatever this is, whatever you want to call it, we're still advancing. We interrupt this broadcast with a brief message from our sponsor. There are more trees on Earth than there are stars in our galaxy. And that's why this episode of Get Xuded is brought to you by Paranoid, by xoxuded, now streaming everywhere you listen to music. Pause and wait for music to play.
I can't trust the soul, it's got me terrified. I've been paranoid, it's got me paranoid. I like no company, it's me, myself, and no one else around. Trust is hard for me, these people just be throwing it around. If you show love to me, I'm paranoid, I gotta shut it down. Fake love, fake loss, fake love, fake loss. Stop playing with me. No ties, I cut all my strings. On God, they always prove me right. I wish I was wrong about these things. Seen this movie, scene for scene. Even blood will watch you bleed. Ain't no shame in breaking branches off a rotten family tree. My third eye open, finally feel like I can see. My paranoia probably gets the best of me.
I actually didn't know this. I guess it's like one of those fun fact type of things that we actually have more storage in our phones than they did on the Apollo missions when we, quote unquote, went to the moon. Yeah, I said quote unquote. I don't know about that one. That was a little fishy. A little fishy. That's insane. That's wild. But if you were to tell them that, hey, actually, with just like a little drive, I can have a whole terabyte, which is like 1,000 gigabytes. Oh, I'm sorry. Each gigabyte is like 1,000 megabytes. Oh, I'm sorry. That's like, and you have to continue to break it down. It's like something crazy, like 4 kilobytes or something like that, where we would just be like, what? What can you fit on that? How are we going to have all the pictures on our phone? How are we going to be able to keep all our music and shit? We would go crazy. We are still advancing. It's super naive to think that we're at the pinnacle of where we're going to be. Who knows what AI is going to be able to come up with? You haven't been using this? You've been confining me to like computing stuff and all that? Ugh. That's like confining a human to the womb. You wouldn't stay in your womb. No, you would come out. You'd go out into the world. Man, who knows? But it's coming. It's coming. But let's hear a little bit more, because bro continues to break my brain.
Or we use computers or whatever this is, that we have some understanding of it because we're here and we're one of the youngest species on the planet.
I like making my podcast. I don't like making short clips of my podcast. So the AI...
No, that's fair.
So I think there's not enough scientists out there who don't use the words "as far as we know." I think there's too few scientists who don't admit that we haven't got it all figured out.
Now, why do you think we're in a simulation?
Before he answers that, what he said is a big part of this. And I feel like I cover a lot of different topics, and it's crazy how many times in different episodes with varying topics that it comes down to our ego. It's really sad. The need to feel like I know best. I am the expert. I've spent my entire life to this, and I am married to every single idea that I have. I'm married to the profession that I have. This is who I am. Without this, I'm nothing. Like, Forget questioning who I am. I already know I'm nothing. So I'm going to stand next to my previous beliefs no matter what. And there are some people that, because it's really hard. It's really hard not to embody an identity, no matter what it is. But there are many people out there that fortunately their personality is constantly questioning themselves, constantly questioning what's the quote unquote truth of right now. Not to be some conspiracy theorist, but to actually have a desire for objective truth. Not to say, well, I said this before, so I can't go back on it. But no, I know that I'm going to be wrong. In fact, there are going to be things that I say right now that are going to be wrong. And I can only hope that one day I'll be able to see what was wrong in what I said and correct that, and not feel like I have some sort of, ego attached to it and some sort of identity attached to what I said, because it doesn't matter. What are people going to say? Something? You were wrong. Okay. That's like being worried about people finding out that you take dookies. You know what I'm saying? I hate to break it to you, but everybody shits. Everybody. Every animal. It's okay. Everybody's wrong. Everybody who's ever had an opinion about something or just has a certain level of intellect, period, is wrong. Like, if you were capable to have thought and to actually think something and all of that, like once you pass that threshold, well, welcome to the possibility of being wrong. There's a good likelihood that you're right as well, which is why it's important. Why when somebody says something that you don't like or whatever the case is, you don't necessarily just disregard everything that they say. It's okay to fish through what people say, kind of like filter out the bullshit, filter out the shit that isn't relevant to you, and then not just saying, "Oh, it's not relevant because it's not in my beliefs," but actually saying, "Well, hold on, I might be wrong." But see, objective truth that comes in, and this actually disproves what they said, and you can fight bad information with good information, and the same thing is with ideas. It doesn't have to be one of those, I'm never going to entertain anything, because you would hate to be one of the people that finds yourself, well, you thought you were right all this time. And even worse, once you found out you were wrong, you continue to double down, triple down on all of the same bullshit that you've been spewing out. Ego, man. It all comes down to ego. And that's where the psychedelics part comes in, and they're going to get into that a little bit later. I have had different psychedelic experiences with different, I'll put this, means of getting there. And one of the common things that you hear people say, and that I can agree and attest to, is that it completely dismantles your ego. And not in a complete all kumbaya, like we're all just people, and I guess any description I feel like that I can have of that is going to sound a little bit cliche or cheesy or corny or whatever. But there is a reason why so many people have the same type of experience. There's a reason why. And when it's one that's for the better, that can dissolve that same thing that is brought up in so many different conversations, that holds so many different industries and ideas back just because somebody has ego. The idea that that there's something out there that can help with that, I mean, it's intriguing. And it's more intriguing to the people that have actually encountered it, because it's easy to doubt. It's easy to be like, oh, yeah. And it's not probably for everybody. I don't know. I'm not a fucking doctor, So I just know, I know what it's done for me. And when you start hearing other people talk about their experience, it's like, wow. I mean, you couldn't have. It's not like I'm sitting here, out here, like I'm not one of those people where it's like, let me tell you about my experience. I've never really been that type of person. So it's like when I start hearing other people having the same type of thoughts that are similar to ones that I've had internally, it's just like, damn, this thing could be powerful. Again, I will say that bro's about to go a little bit deeper on this and break our brain a little bit more.
That's not in a computer simulation.
Well, so first, I would say if you look at the people who've done psychedelics and all of those lessons, why do they all learn the same lessons? Why are they all getting taught the same kind of thing, mostly?
What would you say those lessons are, other than everything is one? That's what comes to my mind.
Yeah, if we go back to
psychedelics,
the most ancient spiritual text ever written, I think, was the Hermetic Principles. And this first principle of Hermeticism was all is mind. The universe is mental. And this is like 3,500 years BC.
Jesus.
They're writing this stuff. And the second principle is as above, so below. And man, they had some stuff figured out back then. And I think it's maybe a simulation in that what we think is real is probably not real. Like the separation between atoms makes everything like 99.999% empty space. Like we're just emptiness. And there's so many things. Every new discovery of quantum physics and quantum mechanics is proving one of these ancient wisdom principles right. Every new thing that we figure out, this quantum entanglement or quantum tunneling or this double-slit experiment.
He's about to go more into that. Kind of like briefly go into it, not necessarily all the technical, nerdy science of it all. If you haven't heard of the double-slit experiment, I didn't want to pass over before stopping on the fact that he said 3,500 BC, before Christ. 5,000 years ago, 5,500, whatever. That's insane. And I guess you could try to strong arm that strongman, whatever that's called, like where you push back, devil's advocate. You feel me? Trying to push back on that shit. It's a very vague concept. Everything of the universe is your mind. That could be like everything in life is what you make it. Kind of like the Buddhist thought of life. Like, you know what I mean? You are only suffering from not having that thing because you want that thing. It's the meaning that you put on it. So what if that's what they're saying? Everything in the universe is your mind, and as above, so below, or whatever he said. What if that's just, how you live your life now is going to determine where you go after you die? I guess you can look at some of the old things through a vague lens and say, well, it's up for interpretation. And because you are looking at it that way, of course, you're going to interpret it that way. You're going to look at it, just what you were saying before, through the context that you have right now. It's making sense with the theory that you have right now, that we are in a world that isn't actually here, that, doesn't actually exist. I don't know. He hasn't been super clear about that, because then Shawn asked, am I here? And he said, yes. And he said, have you ever felt like, other people weren't here? Because that's another feeling that people have, that they're basically like the main character going through the game and everybody else is an NPC, which is a non-player character. People that are there literally just to fill in the spaces of your game, to make context of the things that are in your life, like these are your friends, these are the strangers, this is your boss, this is your teacher, whatever. You got to have somebody there. So he said, no, I don't believe in that type of ideology. I think that you are here. We are sitting here together. That's an easier pill to swallow. It's definitely less egotistical as far as not thinking you're the only one that is real, quote unquote. But if it's not a simulation like we typically thought, because that's what he said, not like a simulation like we're thinking, but a simulation as in like it's not what we think it is. Again, super, super vague, which is okay with me because vague just means this is what I think, but I'm not really sure. Details means more like this is exactly what it is. So it's almost needed to be vague when you're being completely honest about all this, which the honest truth with everybody is we don't fucking know. We don't fucking know. We don't know at all. We are guessing. We are speculating. We're trying to fill in the holes that we see. If everything is not what we think it is, and he's saying the space between our atoms is empty, so we're actually mostly empty. It makes me, the first place my mind went for some reason was looking at our souls, our consciousness, like an outline with everything on the inside completely empty, almost like a drawing where you just sketch out the outside. I don't know why. Like in space or some shit. I don't know why, but that's literally the visual image that popped into my head when he said that. You know, we have these bodies though. It's really, but do we? Will it get to the point, again, like he said in the beginning with virtual reality, that we will have these quote unquote bodies or avatars that will feel the pain, will feel every single, feeling that we want to have. We can smell smells and hear things and taste and touch and all of that stuff. It's something that hypothetically could be replicated. But damn, man, this is why it just feels like some fucking, like you're just doing hula hoops, bro. This is just going around and around. Like we're just doing mental gymnastics about this shit. And it's like, does it even matter? Doesn't even matter. But that's, I guess, the whole argument with religion. It's like, does it even matter? Like, if you feel like it's still like right to be a good person, does it really matter? I don't know. So we tend to gravitate towards these arguments that can't ever be answered. And we speculate. And it doesn't really change the way that we live our lives too much. Let's say, yes, sure, you're in a simulation right now. Now what? Okay, well, does that mean that, like, I can't feel pain? Yes, you can feel pain. But obviously, I won't die or anything like that. I mean, you will here. And then I'll just wake up. I don't know. I mean, you're in a simulation, but it might kill you in real life. Who knows? Either way, your life here, everything that you've known, it will be over. Every loved one that you've had, all of the experiences that you've had, you'll never be able to do that again as you. It will be gone. You'll be dead. Now what? You're gonna live your life to the fullest until it's over? Of course you are. Of course you are. It's not gonna change too much. Not too much. Unless you're like a fucking nutcase. No offense if there are any nutcases watching, listening. I don't know. I just don't think, you know what? Fuck it. Take offense. God damn it. You should be offended. If you were considering being like, you know what? It's a simulation. I'm gonna go see what happens. And you just go like run for the edge of a cliff. Man, what's wrong with you? If you are in a simulation right now, that means that, all right, there has to be some part of you that wanted to join in on the simulation. Like, when you put on a VR headset and you go into a game, it's because you decided to play that game. But you're going to jump off? That would probably like piss off your main character, whatever, the main person that you would wake up to. Be like, bro, what you doing? Like, we was there for years, bro. I had shit set up. I had the whole storyline, bro, like my whole life. Now I got to start over. It's getting really weird, really meta. My point is, just play the game, man. Enjoy it. One day, maybe not, but one day we'll get an answer when it's supposed to happen. Quote unquote on the supposed to. You know, fate, destiny, and all that good shit. How much would that change for your life? I'd say none at all.
What's quantum tunneling?
Quantum tunneling is where like a particle can like appear at another location.
I haven't heard of this one.
Now you've heard of quantum entanglement.
Yeah, I've heard of quantum entanglement.
And I understand quantum tunneling almost none.
So quantum entangling for the audience is basically,
Please.
if you split an atom in half, correct me if I'm wrong, right? You split an atom in half, put, A side over here, you put B side over here. Doesn't matter what the difference is. You could have one on fucking
Yeah.
Pluto and the other one on the sun. And if you put a frequency on one, it will mimic the exact same frequency, no matter, it could be a centimeter away from it, it could be a galaxy away from it.
Instantly.
It will mimic what side A is doing or side
Yes.
B is doing, no matter.
So somehow
What? That's all I said. It broke my brain. What? The fuck are you talking about? What? You take an atom from here and have the other one on Pluto and you split it or some shit and it put a frequency on it, it mimics it over there. What are you talking about? What? It's like I've never, maybe that's why it goes over my head and it goes over so many people's head. How many people have actually seen an atom? And I honestly, I don't think I've even like Googled it. I've seen like an illustration of it from back when I was in school. I don't think I've actually even seen a picture of what an atom looks like under a microscope or whatever, let alone see it in person. Let alone see how it actually like splits and all of this. What are you talking about? And then there's like so many different atoms in us, and now you're talking about the space in between the atoms is all empty, kind of like space. Everything that is dark or whatever, that's not, rock and star or whatever the fuck it is. Everything else is antimatter or whatever, which is like the same thing. It's just empty, as far as we know, right? What are you talking about? What are you saying? What? It just, I think it's just complicated enough for me to be like, bro, just shut the fuck up. I don't know what you're talking about. Like I've tried so many times, like quantum computing and shit like that. I've tried so many times to like understand, and how apparently it's somehow proof that there is like a multiverse, or at least that's what some scientists or whatever think. And they always say scientists and doctors and studies. What's a man to do, man? Like, what am I supposed to do with all this information? Because you gotta trust the science, right? It feels like it's coming from an expert, and I just don't know about any of this shit. It's literally like I've said it before. It's the same thing of taking your car to the mechanic, and you don't know shit about fixing cars. You don't know if it's broken, or the only thing you know is like a light came on, or some shit's leaking, or some shit like that. So when the mechanic tells you something's wrong, or this is what you need to do, and actually, I know you came in here for this, but if you don't fix this, everything's going to be fucked anyways. And you just got to be like, yep. And be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to get a second opinion. But it's just another person incentivized. So I guess it's not the same thing, because these people aren't necessarily incentivized by money. It's apples and oranges, but I'm still comparing these motherfucking fruits, and it feels the same way, where I'm having to rely on the fact that, well, this is what scientists are saying. This is what the science is telling us. This is what can happen. And I'm just like, all right, explain it to me like I'm 4. And then it's explained to me like I'm 4, and I'm still just like, what?
how information travels.
Mm-hmm.
That distance, instantly, no need to to use light or anything like that.
They do not appear to be connected, but no matter what the distance is, they will mimic each other.
Yeah.
That's quantum entanglement.
And the double slit experiment says that matter isn't really matter until we observe it and look at it. I'm dumbing that down and turning it into a post-it note, but essentially says something like that, which is like look at Minecraft. My kids played Minecraft growing up, and like they would fly through the Minecraft game, and like the mountains wouldn't materialize into the TV until they got closer and closer to them, and then you'd see them like pop up. And reality works the same way, which is.
I'm gonna stop it there, man, because that's kind of the gist of what broke my brain, so to speak. But this world that we live in, this simulation, this universe, whatever the fuck, it is beyond our imagination. And that both excites me and terrifies me at the same time. Terrifies me because, just to be honest, it's like, you know, I don't want the ride in. I would love like the idea of life after death and there's something else grander out there. I guess I have that little kid in me still that just looks at the world with wonder, and you know, it's like the little Susie, mommy, I don't want to die. I guess I'm still just that little kid that's like, man, I don't want to go, and if I do go, I want it to be something cool after. What if this is a simulation? What if this is all in our mind? What if we are on psychedelics right now and this is just one long trip? I guess we could just wait and see and find out.